Just a very quick introduction. Thank you very much, Tobias, to kind of introducing me. I'm Tamas from the University of Westminster in the UK, and in the PITHIA project, we are leading the eScience Center development activities. We are computer scientists, obviously, so our background is computer science, and we would like to kind of support the community in order to create an eScience Center which actually they can use on the long term and which fulfills its objectives and goals. So why do we? What are the objectives of the eScience Center, and why do we create this eScience Center? Obviously, when PITHIA started, there were several observation facilities, data collections, data sets, models, various other tools in the partners. But they were dispersed, and they were very hard to find, and they were very hard to utilize unless you know exactly what you were looking for. So the aim of the eScience Center is to bring all these together. And bringing all these together means that provide a single entry point in order to get access to this. So find them based on certain set of metadata, and once you found them, then you need to utilize these for your own purposes, and you need to use the capabilities of the eScience Center in order to do what you would like to do. Now, obviously, we would like to provide it from a high-level graphical user interface. That's very important, that it's a kind of web-based interface. And also, we are planning to investigate how we can provide kind of advanced functionalities. For example, helping models to be connected to each other, or providing advanced machine learning tools in order to feed the data into those and so on. So regarding the roadmap of the eScience Center, we started it at the beginning of the project, so in April 2021. But obviously, when you start such a kind of development, a long time is required in order to understand what you would like to do. In a proposal, you put in some ideas. You would like to convince the European Commission, obviously, that what you are doing is a good idea. But once you got the funding, you need to go into the details. And this usually takes a lot of time. So this meant that we needed to collect requirements. We needed to collect the input from the community. We created, for example, questionnaires with 166 questions altogether. Some of them were answered by all of the partners. Some of them were answered multiple times if they had multiple models. So this was a very tedious process. We analyzed the requirements. We also selected the technology, went through the technology capabilities, and so on. So based on these, a proof of concept and technology trials are continued through 2021, and the actual implementation started in January 2022. The first working version of the eScience Center was ready by the summer of 2022, and the first public release will be around at the end of the month. So it is already publicly available. The eScience Center can be accessed by everybody. You just need to know the link, and the kind of big announcement that this is available will come at the end of March. And obviously, we are continuously developing the functionalities of the eScience Center. Now, regarding these functionalities, the most important functionality for the eScience Center is accessing your stuff. Okay? So this means accessing what we call data collections. Data collections in PITHIA can be twofold. They can be either models or they can be data sets. Both of them are called as a data collection. And what people can do with this, obviously providers can register data collections, but most importantly, users can do various things with the data collection. They can search data in the data collection. We developed a very kind of advanced ontology which helps you to do this search, and I already kind of splashed it out. I will have some more slides about this. You can browse these data collections, and most importantly, you can interact with these data collections. So interaction means that you can go there and grab the data what you need. It means that you can search for the data inside the data collection what you need. It means that you can do some basic calculations or basic operations on the data. It means that you can execute your model, execute the published model, and then get the output of that, and so on. Now, the second one, which we are currently almost finishing, is providing catalogs. And catalogs are smaller things typically than data collections. They are coming or originated from a data collection for a specific problem. So, for example, volcano eruptions can be a catalog. Okay? And inside volcano eruptions, you can have multiple catalog entries. For example, the last year's Honga Tonga eruption could be one catalog entry inside a catalog. And then for the Honga Tonga eruption, you can have multiple small data sets which are describing that, which were published by different people, and those will be the catalog data subsets inside the catalog. And for each catalog data subset, we will be able to assign a DOI. So example, if you write a paper using a particular data subset, you can assign a DOI to that and you can refer to that permanently with a permanent identifier. Now, other functionalities obviously include the lower plumbing layer, and that is what we are currently finalizing to give account to certain users. The eScience Center will be completely open, so this means that anybody with without any kind of authorization can access the eScience Center. But obviously, if you would like to publish things in the eScience Center, we cannot allow everybody to publish things, yes? Or to delete things, for example, from the eScience Center. So that will require accounts. And we are almost ready, so hopefully by the end of the month, this will be fully implemented. We are also planning to provide e-learning services, so things how to understand better the eScience Center, how to understand better the science for those people who would like to understand that. And we are also providing some kind of other services like user support and information community services, which we have not started yet, but those are the kind of easy bits, to be honest. So that's probably can be moved at some point from the PITHIA website, most of them. Now, regarding the ontological approach which we follow, so this is the slide which you have seen in Anna's presentation already, and this is the 12-step registration process, which uses a metadata structure and the related ontology in order to describe the metadata. Coming back to this on the next slide, explaining why we believe it is complicated on one hand, but why it makes life easier on the other hand. So if we consider this, then you need to describe at the top of the pile, you need to describe your data collection. But in order to describe the data collection, you need to tell us how is it originated. So for example, which is the organization, which is it coming from, who is the individual who is responsible for this data collection, what project is responsible, what kind of instrument was used in order to obtain the data, and so on. And this makes it obviously slightly complicated to describe, but it makes it very thorough and very detailed if you are interested in certain type of information. And the keywords inside the metadata structure are coming from this ontology, which is a space physics ontology, and which describes what can be, for example, an instrument, what can be a feature of interest. And only keywords from this ontology can be used in the description. Obviously, the ontology is evolving, so if there are new types of data coming in, we can extend the ontology, and that can accommodate new requirements. So as I said, the registration is completed in this order, and the keywords are coming from the ontology. Now, I know, as I said, it looks complicated, and inside the project we have different opinions, whether it is good, bad, what is the advantage, and so on. The good news is that the complication is only for the provider. Okay? And the provider needs to do it once, and needs to do it once per data collection, not per piece of data which you register, one per data collection, and then that's it. You don't have to bother with that anymore. So they need to do this XML files, but we are providing various levels of help. So for example, we are providing templates, which means that you only need to fill in the actual piece of data which you are providing. We are providing manuals. We are providing support in the form of experts or champions who are happy to help people. And we are, maybe later, we are providing some kind of graphical tool where you can just put in the actual values. You still need to think through what values you put in, which I believe is the most complicated part of this, to be honest. Now, the second very important aspect is how you interact with the data collection. And we are thinking about 4 different interaction methods with the data collection. 2 of them are already implemented, and 2 of them are for the near future. One which we implemented first is a very simple interaction method. During the registration, you provide us with a link, and then people just click on the link, and they go to your data collection, which is hosted somewhere, or they go to your model, which is hosted somewhere, and after that, they interact with it as if they were interacted even without the eScience Center. What the eScience Center adds to this is make it easier to find your data collection. People just need to remember one link, go to the eScience Center, find your data collection by search or browse, and then they go there. If we have like hundreds or thousands of data collections, it will make life already significantly easier. One single entry point. The second one, which we also implemented, and we are kind of trialing it out in a few first models, is to execute a model inside the eScience Center, interact with the data set from the eScience Center through what we call an application programming interface. This means that your data set or model is running somewhere. It can be on a resource which we provide by the eScience Center. It can be outside the eScience Center. And if you would like to interact with that resource, then you just click on a link inside the eScience Center, you stay inside the eScience Center, and the eScience Center remotely communicates with your data collection or your model. What is simple in this, or what we try to make simple, is that you don't have to do any kind of integration. You just need to create a YAML-based or a kind of formal description of your API. So if you got this API already implemented in front of the model, you just simply create a description. This description, there are several tools which create automatically. So you don't even have to bother with this. How you just press a button and the creation will be automatic. And then the only thing you need to do as a provider is to upload this file to the eScience Center. And the eScience Center automatically generates the user interface. It is obviously a limited user interface because we can't generate anything fancy for any kind of model in the world automatically. But this is easy, okay? Because you just upload a file and the graphical user interface is immediately generated. We are also working on two other options. One is to deploy dynamically models in the cloud. This is, again, will require some effort on the data collection providers. And the very simple one is that you got a simple model, you just allow people to download it into their PC and then execute it on the PC. We are also investigating whether this is useful for the community or not useful. So these are the four methods which we currently have in mind. If there is any other need, we are very happy to consider that. We didn't find any other option, to be honest, to be easily made available. But if anybody would like to suggest something to us, we are happy to do that. Now, who can access the eScience Center? As I said, currently anybody can access the eScience Center. But once the official release comes out, then users can only access the browse and search and execution functionalities. And only a few people can access the eScience Center in a way that they publish new resources, the ones who are resource providers or resource owners. And now I would like to show a demo. I don't know how much time I have. I know that 15:30. 15 minutes. Fantastic. So then I have plenty of time for the demo. I try to finish it like 5 or 10 minutes, and then we will have time for questions. So I would like to show you a short demo of the eScience Center. So it is here. So this is how it looks like. Okay, this is the current user interface. Now, once we fully implement user management, then those things at the bottom will not be visible anymore. Okay, so they will disappear. They will require somebody to log in. So those functionalities where you register and manage metadata, register a resource inside the eScience Center. The registration guide and the metadata models, they will not be visible for common users. They will only be visible for people who are interested in publishing new things. And then they need to create an account themselves, and they need to create an organization which they belong to. And on behalf of that organization, they will be able to register those resources. But if I go now there first, then you see that here you can register two types of things. You can register either data collections or you can register catalogs. Yeah? So if I go, for example, to the data collection registration, then here you see that these are those XML files which I have, or kind of names which I have shown you previously, from organization to data collection. And all of these are representing XML files which the provider uploads to the eScience Center. For example, if I go to data collections, then regarding a data collection, you see the already registered data collections. So these are the ones. You can view the registration XML file here, and I will tell you why it is important, because if you would like to register a new data collection, then you see like 23 examples already. Okay, so you see exactly how the structure looks like. Most of the time, you just need to replace the value with your own value inside the Science Center. You can also download this file, so you don't have to look it online. You can download this, and then you can collect a few examples for your before your registration. And this is true for all the functionalities. Sorry, I got lost myself a little bit. Okay, so that's one thing. Now I went back too much. So yeah. Now here what you can do is that you can also register a new data collection. And when you register a new data collection, then the only thing you need to do is to choose your already prepared XML file and then upload that XML file to the Science Center. Now, when you do this, the Science Center automatically checks it. So it will not allow you to upload a wrong XML file. It checks the syntax, it checks the so-called XML schema, it checks whether all the dependencies with the other already registered PITHIA-NRF functionalities are there, and so on. So it is doing a very comprehensive check. Obviously, it cannot check the semantics. It cannot check whether you put the right name for your instrument. We can't do that. That's something which only you know. But otherwise, it does a check. And if it is successful, it allows you to upload. If not, it sends you error messages and say that these are wrong and you need to correct that. Okay, so that is about the registration. And at the end of the registration, you can also define interaction methods. So one is default defined, that is putting a link and going outside to the resource. That's kind of default. You don't have to do anything. But if you would like to register another interaction method, at the moment you can only do it with an API. Then you need to click that button, and you need to give us a link to your API specification. You don't even have to upload anything. You just need a link where your API specification. This is a file which can be found somewhere. And from that information, we will generate automatically the graphical user interface. So all that will be not your problem, and that will be generated automatically for every single user who would like to execute it inside the Science Center. So if I go back to the beginning, then, as I said, you can have a, if you are again a provider, that we have a very comprehensive guide. It is 20, 30 pages explaining how to register a certain the different kind of entities inside Pythia. So you can obviously use this registration guide in order to help you in the process. Now, if I go to something more interesting, so for example, searching for data collections, then we implemented an ontology-based search. So this means that all that parameters which the provider with sweat and tears put into the eScience Center, now the users, just by ticking some boxes, can utilize. Okay? So obviously at the moment it may make very small sense. We have 23 data collections currently registered. If it grows to 50, 100, 200, 1,000, obviously this kind of search would be very valuable, because then searching among 1,000 data collections becomes pretty complicated. So I think that was the motivation of the community behind suggesting the ontology in order to make it easier. So for example, if I click here on Earth, and then within Earth I click on ionosphere, then I can retrieve all those data collections which are related to ionosphere. Okay? So this one, the search is currently running, and now it returned me quite a few data collections already which are related to that. And then obviously you can go into one of these and then you can explore those. I'm not going to do this because after the coffee break, Jürgen and Sean are going to show two examples. Jürgen's example will be exactly finding a data collection in the, sorry, a data set in the eScience Center and then yeah, utilizing that. Now, if I would like to show some other functionalities. So for example, you can not only search for data collections, you can also browse for data collections. So that means that if you more or less know what you are looking for, then you can just select a particular data collection, which can be a module or a data set, and then you can click on that, and then yeah, you can interact with that. Again, I'm not going to do this because after the break, very detailed presentations by people who actually understand what you see, because I don't understand, will explain you how it is actually working. Yeah. You can also browse catalogs, and this is something which is in infancy at the moment. So this is just for demonstration because nobody registered catalogs so far in the Science Center. The reason for this is that this was made available a couple of weeks ago only. So this is a new functionality. And we just registered one catalog which was created by Ivan Galkin. And this is the one which I told you earlier. So this is the volcano eruption as a catalog. Inside the volcano eruption, we have one catalog entry, which is called the Honga Tonga. And then inside that catalog entry, currently we have a catalog data subset. So this is the actual data which is uploaded somewhere. And this data, at the moment, it is not there, but in a few days or max a week time, hopefully we will have a DOI assignment possibility as well. So that means that if people want to assign a DOI, they can assign a DOI to these catalog entries. It's not compulsory, so you can publish a catalog entry without a DOI, or if you already have a DOI for a catalog entry, you can also use that DOI in the publication. But if you don't, then inside the Science Center, without leaving the Science Center, you will be able to get a DOI for your data set. Also, what is quite interesting and which is coming very quickly is that you either upload your data set somewhere. For example, in an institution, you got a repository and you upload the data set there and then refer to that with the DOI. But if you don't have that, then the eScience Center will also allow you to upload the data subset to EOSC resources and store them on EOSC resources through EGI. Yeah, I think I'm running out of time, yeah, probably. So I'm going to finish this here, and if you got any questions, I'm very happy to answer that. Yes. Jurgen.
Yeah. Petra, can you give a mic?
Yeah, thank you, Tamas. As you mentioned already, when one gets to the data collection, there are a number of data collections which require to have an account or to register for an account. Will the eScience Center provide a way to circumvent this, to make it easier, or will this continue like this?
I think it will, but it depends on you, to be honest, and the data collection providers, not on the eScience Center. The eScience Center cannot do magic. So if it requires an account, it requires an account, and if the provider does not let the eScience Center in, we cannot go in, okay? We can discuss with the data providers whether they are happy to let the eScience Center in. So if the eScience Center gets an account as eScience Center, then we are in, and then, then the users will not need an account. But that is a very big compromise from the provider, because then the provider gives an account to anybody in the world. Yeah? Anybody in the world from that moment without an account can get inside the data collection. So this is, I don't think that the eScience Center can solve this. Only the provider can say, yeah, okay, I let anybody who comes through the eScience Center, I let that person in. Another option is that they say, okay, so we let the eScience Center in, but only for those people who have an account in the eScience Center. Okay, a real account. So we know who that person is. And that could also be an option. But again, this is really, we need to discuss this with the data collection providers, because this is not an eScience Center restriction that you need an account. It is the data provider says, no, if you don't have an account, you can't come in. eScience Center cannot bypass that, yeah? Legally cannot bypass that. Unless the provider is ready to make some compromise and say, yeah, okay, through the eScience Center, it will be open, or through the eScience Center for eScience Center members, it will be open. But otherwise, if anybody sees any solution for that, I'm very happy, but I don't see. I think it's not possible, because it has nothing to do with us. It's really your institution which says, no, it's not open. And I know that in PITHIA, that's the aim, to be open, but that's, yeah, providers.
There are a few more questions, I think. Whoever gets the mic. Where is the second mic? There's a mic over there.
Okay. But before the mic gets there, so I fully understand your point, Jürgen, and I'm happy to support it. But I think it is really you, the data collection providers, need to think about this. sorry.
I have a generic question. I saw that also in the layout of the eScience Center there was room for webinars, which is good. I think as scientists we will first think about webinars on how to use the eScience Center for scientists. But I would like, especially on this Innovation Day, get some attention for the SME users. So we need webinars on specific apps that they might want to use. But maybe also webinars on more generic aspects of space weather, HF radio, stuff like that that they need. And if we can offer that, the PITHIA eScience Center would attract much more attention as well.
That's a very good suggestion. And please keep in mind that what we are going to develop in the eScience Center is the capability for you to create a webinar. Okay? So what is very important, that the eScience Center is an empty shell. It's everything. We do our work, and that's fine, but this is like 10% of the overall work for the next 10 years. 90% or 95% is on you. Okay? So we create you the capability to put the webinar in, but then what webinar you do, that's up to you. How much effort you creating a webinar is work, significant work. Okay? So if there are thousands of webinars, fantastic. But yeah, we will just create you the capability to do that, like this one. So we create you the capability to publish a data collection. How many are published? That depends on you, and that depends on the wider community.
Okay, there's one more question here in the room, and then after that there's also one online. But we will go first with Matthew. Yeah.
You mentioned extending the ontology. So I think there's two questions really. One is what are the mechanics for doing that, and the other one, which is maybe for Anna, is who owns the ontology and what's the process of extending it?
Okay, so at the moment, I think I can probably answer both questions because they are very much close together. But if Anna would like to extend, I'm very happy to do that. So the ontology, extending the ontology at the moment is the way that if you realize that there is something which is non-describable during the publication process, then we have one certain person inside the consortium at the moment who is responsible, who developed the ontology or who is the main developer of the ontology, and who can very easily add a tag to the ontology. So we are not necessarily planning, I think, to make it open. It is rather more on a request that somebody says that, okay, I can't describe my instrument because the ontology doesn't fit that. Send an email to PITHIA, and then we extend the ontology and say that, okay, now this is available and you can use that particular thing. At the moment, we are describing internal resources within the project. And what happened that if during that publication somebody realized, no, it's not working, then Ivan extended the ontology. It's very simple. So he uses a tool in order to add the tag, and then it is automatically pushed into the eScience Center. So we don't even have to know that the ontology has been extended. Ivan puts it on GitHub, and from GitHub, within, let's say, a few minutes, it is automatically updating the eScience Center.
Okay, there was a question online. We will take that first, and then there is another one in the room. But first, I don't know who it was, but you can speak up. Ivan, okay. Ivan, go ahead, please.
We can't hear, I think, Ivan.
Yeah, we are not hearing anything. Stand by, technical issues.
No, he's not unmuting himself.
Ivan, you're still...
Okay.
Yes, now you are. Now we hear you.
Yeah. All right, very good. Yeah. Okay, there was a question about, let me take you back to the previous question about user accounts. There is no big reason behind adding, registering every user, not the provider, but the user that would like to look at the data, except that in our experience, there are occasionally situations when there are what is called a denial of service attack. That someone starts downloading data in such a large quantities that it really stagnates the whole system. Sometimes we see requests for images are coming at 15, 20, 30 hertz. So that will certainly bring our system down. And if we can recognize that these requests are arriving from a particular user, then we can shut that user account down and reach out to him explaining that please be aware you have to pace your data request in order to let everyone else using the system as well. If there is one account that we allocate to a science center at our data services, and we see that activity is too high for our comfort of servicing these data requests, we will shut down the whole science center account. So that is something to think about. That goes to you, to your explanation that maybe a science center should have one account at every data provider site.
So Ivan, I think that's a very good comment. So you are one provider. I think there are providers in PITHIA who are completely open and they don't mind that anybody accesses the data collection. And there are providers who are completely closed. So even now, if I go to the science center, many times I click on something, I get to immediately log in, and I cannot go any further than that. So there are these three kind of categories. I think you are in the middle. And I think in your case, okay, so I can also do it in other ways, but obviously if the eScience Center has not got a central account, then the users will not be able to access it without any further authentication, okay? So I can imagine three different solutions. One solution is that anybody can get access to the eScience Center, but then certain providers are going to say my data is not open, so those users will not be able to access that data unless they register with the organization. This is one possibility. The second one is that you convince somehow every provider in PITHIA and outside that the data is open. And then that's perfect. Then the eScience Center goes there and anybody can access the data. And then the third solution is, which I mentioned, is that if certain providers accept that they allow users until the user comes through the eScience Center, then we can get access to the data. Yeah, you can shut us down anytime, and then you can say, and then we put a notice on the eScience Center that this provider shut us down because you were too busy or you were too interested in science and they couldn't serve that. So whatever. But I think these are the solutions. I don't see any other one. It's really, I think you need to start the discussion between the data collection providers, and the data collection providers need to tell what their policies are. I don't think we had this discussion in the project so far. And I think this is very important. Because we can't do magic. I mean, I can't go through your data collection and grab some data if you don't allow me to do that.
Okay, we have one more question here in the room. Please go ahead.
Yes. I vote for the combination if that is not too much work for PITHIA project. And it is quite typical strategy for observatories to have part of the data open, part by only access for those who have a user account. And it can be even the same data, so that quick look plots from the same data is open for everybody. But then if you want more precise information or more high-resolution data, then you need to get access. So this would be, then this is this is the solution where all the rules of the road by different providers can be used as such, know that nobody does not need to change the rules of the road. But that is quite much work. So whether it can be already during PITHIA or whether it's for future.
I don't think it is any work for us. Again, the eScience Center has nothing to do with the policy of the... If you provide some of your data free, then our users will get some of your data free, and for other data they need to sign in. It is absolutely no work from this. There is nothing which the eScience Center can do. Okay, so the eScience Center itself it doesn't matter. But obviously some users will see that if I would like to access that data, I'm not allowed. So I need to contact you, and I need to get an account from you. That is what the eScience Center user will see.
So would it be already possible, the data providers, to provide quick look plots, open for everybody, and then the high resolution for those who have an account? Yeah,
100%. So inside the eScience Center, if I go here, for example, so I go for a data collection. I go for a data collection, for example, and I select that data collection. And here for that data collection, there are links how you can access it, okay, which goes to your site. And in this case, you publish 2 links. And you say that link is open, and that link is only for people who have account to me. And then that's it. So everything which is displayed here, it is done by you, okay? So you put this data into the eScience Center. I don't even touch it. I don't even know what you ever put it in here. If you add 2 links, one for the open access, the other one is for the non-open access, perfectly fine. You can explain there that one of them will be open access, the other one is not open access, and only for people who have already account with my institution.
This looks really great. I think so that there is a solution already for this.
Exactly. But what I can't do is that I can't allow people who don't have an account to access your data because you are protecting it. Okay. So that is what you have a policy. You don't give it open access. That sort of data. That is your policy. I can't influence that, and I don't want to obviously influence that.
Thank you very much.